Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils take game one in Colorado, their first place in the NL East. I told you so, Mets fans.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio for a little bit over 5 years now. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. We're also available wherever you get your podcasts. So you can check us out in multiple forms here on Locked On Phillies. I appreciate everyone who's done that and going to do that in the future. So the Phils take down the Rockies last night. They take over first place in the National League East. I told you it was going to happen. It did happen. We're going to talk about it today. We're also going to spend some special time on some wild Kyle Schwarber numbers following his 300th career home run last night in game one. And then we're going to take a look ahead to game two. But let's talk about that opening game win, because you might have gone to sleep early, right? The game was late. West Coast game. So it ended around midnight, or like 11:30 was when I finally turned the TV off after the game and like some post-game stuff. And if you went to bed early and you wake up and you see the final score and you say the Phillies won 9-3 and they had 17 hits, oh, wow, they smoked them. It wasn't even close. They were just messing around down the stretch. No, there was a point where it was 3-2 in the 8th inning, and the Phillies were not leading in that game. And it felt like, are they really going to drop this first game of the series to Colorado? And like, yeah, sure, they'll bounce back and whatever, but it's annoying to lose to an 8-win baseball team. You should not lose to this team. And, well, the Phillies didn't. Alec Boehm, a major swing at the bat. His best swing of the year. He goes yard to center field. He barreled it like crazy to put the Phillies up 4-3. And then they just keep rolling. They score more in the top of the 8th, and then they score more in the top of the 9th. Like Trey Turner had a big double, and Mundo Sosa goes yard. Kyle Schwarber, who we're going to talk about coming up next, hits his 300th home run. It was a nuke, by the way, 466 feet. And this team, weird, right? We've talked about this with the Cardinals. They just can't seem to figure out the St. Louis Cardinals pitching this year for whatever reason. They just don't see that team well. Seems like following the the second series of the year, the home opening series against the Colorado Rockies, the Phillies didn't really hit their starting pitching all that well. Didn't see their starting pitching all that well. But when it got to the bullpen, they demolished them. Last night, Kyle Freeland was pretty darn good for the Rockies, and the Phillies got basically nothing off of him. And yet, you get to the bullpen, and it all of a sudden seems like you're facing, little leaguers. I don't know how that happens. I don't know what it is that they're not seeing well with the Rockies starting rotation, but as long as you win the game, that's all that matters. And the Philadelphia Phillies, they sure won that game. They dominated in the 8th and 9th inning, where it was just kind of like, hey, we're just going to hang around until the 8th inning, and then you're going to put in a guy we see well, and then another guy we see well, and the next thing you know, you're going to have given up 17 hits and nearly double-digit runs, and we're going to get out of here with what feels like a nice, strong, comfortable victory that was anything but until Alec Boehm put a great swing on a baseball in the 8th inning. Now, not something to be concerned about at all that they can't see Rocky starting pitching, because I think it's just an individual teams thing. Like, it has no rhyme or reason on quality of rotations. The Rockies do not have a good starting rotation. Their entire starting rotation has 4 wins on the year. Yeah, I know. That's nuts, right? They're not a good baseball team. But the Phillies just don't see them well, just like the Cardinals. The good news with the Rockies is there's a 0% chance, 0% chance that you see this team in any type of like postseason situation. So who cares if you can't hit them? You just got to go out there and find ways to win. And if you're doing that against the bullpen, hey, we move on. And I don't think there's anything to be learned about the way the Rockies have pitched the Phillies. When I say the Rockies, I mean their starters. But yeah, the Phils, they really, really turned it on late, and they were kind of always hanging around. Like, you had a feeling that they were going to break through, and they had chances in the game. They just didn't cash in. But You keep getting those chances long enough for a team this good, and you're going to be rolling. Excuse me. Obviously, late night yelling at the TV about the Phillies. So I really loved what I saw from the Phillies in game one. And more importantly, I really loved what I saw in baseball in general last night, because the Mets lost 3-1 to the Red Sox, which now puts the Phillies in first place in the NL East, right? Now, it's not just the NL East. They're also first place in the entire National League. Yes, your Philadelphia Phillies. They're kind of shaky to start. Their bullpen might stink. Alvarado gets suspended for 80 games. Harper's not really hitting. Bohm has no power. All of this stuff. Who's batting leadoff? Those Phillies, they're the best team by record in the National League right now. And there's a long way to go still. But you remember when we had the conversation about how this team's good? They just got to figure it out, and they will. And they're going to reach that peak again. And now it's about sustaining it. We're at that point. People are going to look and say, you played the Pirates. You're playing the Rockies. You're right. Guess what? Other teams, they play these teams too. They do. So you're going to see if other teams can catch the Phillies as the season goes on. And we'll see if the Phillies can sustain this against better opposition. But you play the teams you play. And right now, the Philadelphia Phillies have the best record in the National League. So I guess my question is, when do you start to believe, right? When do you start to really feel like, not that this year is different, but that this year could be more of the same in the regular season? I think we're already kind of there at this point. I think this is the stretch needed to say, okay, they're on the same trajectory as they have been the past couple of years, where it's a great regular season, improvements in the regular season. I think they're on pace to win 100 games. And we've seen that. But then the postseason has been even further regression back from where they were going to the World Series in 22. So you have to step up when it matters most in the postseason, but being better every regular season over and over and over again, you can't just wipe that away. And that's what the Phillies have done. And that's how they found themselves in first place in the National League again. I mean, it's no joke to be at the top of a National League that has the Dodgers and Padres and Braves and Mets and these teams. You're looking at a situation where this team is up there with all of them. So anyone who called them mediocre or who said, oh, this team doesn't have it, they didn't do enough, running it back, whatever. This is not a victory lap for me on this team, because this is not where the story of the Philadelphia Phillies in 2025 will be written. I'm just saying, maybe there was some overreaction at the start of the season when people were saying this team stinks. Also, for all of the Mets fans who told me I was crazy for my take on, hey, by this Thursday, the Phillies are going to be in first place in the NL East. It didn't even take till Thursday, you losers. Didn't even take till Thursday. The Phillies jumped the Mets real darn quick. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to hold there. And the division is kind of tightening up. Atlanta's starting to make some headway. The Mets aren't going anywhere. They're still a good baseball team. But just because of where the schedule was, it felt like the time for the Phillies to jump back up in the first place in the East. And they have. Now, can they, as we sit here on May 20th, can they maintain that position for the remainder of the regular season? You're going to get a nice buffer, because the Mets, they played the Red Sox 2 more times, and then they're going to play the Dodgers. So they're going to lose some of those games. And the Phillies, well, they have 3 more against the Rockies, which this could be a 4-game sweep. It could be, shout out to our friends at Cespedes Family Barbecue. It could be a mop, which is what they call a 4-game sweep, right? A sweep is 3 games. A mop is 4 games. It could be one of those, but we'll see how it plays out. There's nothing really to worry about with this team right now. You can think about the future ramifications of not having Jose Alvarado in the bullpen. You can try and figure out what's going on with the rotation now. Andrew Painter's going to fit in, and now Aaron Nola could possibly come back, and how valuable it is if Nola comes back and he throws well. But at the end of the day, when you look at this baseball team, they are pretty damn good. And running it back is something that the fan base gets annoyed about, right? But when you look at running it back with players that still have room to improve year over year, guys like Bryson Stott, who has had a much better year. Guys like, I'm trying to think, depth pieces, Edmundo Sosa, who has had a much better year in his role, even though he's been good. Weston Wilson who's beginning to be a depth contributor. Like, I don't want to say Ryan Kirkland because he hasn't really been all that good, but like Christopher Sanchez has taken another step. Like, you're looking at guys that are starting to push closer towards their ceilings, so running it back doesn't look as bad. I'm seeing all of the things that I believed about this baseball team, and I'm trying not to overreact because it's May 20th and it's the Colorado Rockies. But everything that I believed this team could be, they are right now. And the question is, how long do you sustain that? Because I could point to a point in every single of the past 4 seasons and say, that's the point where this team, well, they are who I thought they were. They're great. And then they just lose it, or they don't have it long enough in the postseason, or they run into a hotter team. So there's work still to be done, but the Phillies are in first place in the NL East. They're in first place in the National League. They had 17 hits last night. Christopher Sanchez threw well. They won 9-3. Like, things are good right now for the Philadelphia Phillies, and they're going to continue to be in this series with the Colorado Rockies. But coming up next, we need to talk about an individual effort from last night. Kyle Schwarber, he's been one of the themes of this year, his monster numbers and stuff that he's doing that nobody's done before or that very few people have done before. Well, he had another home run last night, another one off a lefty. It was number 300 in his career. And the numbers surrounding it, insane. And there's no other word for it. Insane. We'll talk about Kyle Schwarber's milestone coming up next as we continue today's episode. Let's talk about Monarch Money, though, because do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. No, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. I mean, when I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on going out to the bar. And now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. You got that all-in-one convenience, and managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com, and you'll get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Go ahead and check out our friends over at Monarch Money. Kyle Schwarber, home run number 300 in his career. No surprise that he's gotten to this point with the way he's slugged as a Philadelphia Philly, and even before he was a Philadelphia Philly. So we shouldn't be too shocked that he got to 300 career home runs, right? Well, there's a couple things about it that we need to be shocked by. Some numbers that are hugely, hugely indicative of how big Kyle Schwarber has been for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, the first number we've already mentioned, but we'll say it again because it's insane. I know it's Coors Field. It's Denver, Colorado. The air is thin. Yeah, it's not your typical hitting experience. The ball flies there. Everybody says it. Hitter's ballpark. Well, still, it doesn't mean that a guy like me can walk up and hit a 466-foot home run. Kyle Schwarber did that for 300. He nuked it. They have some great camera angles on social media if you want to seek it out. 466 is a bomb anywhere. It'd be a bomb on the moon, much less like on actual Earth in a major league ballpark. That still is a Herculean feat by Kyle Schwarber. Now, here's something that is even further, or I should say even furthering the awe you should be in by Kyle Schwarber hitting his 300th career home run, where he did, in the manner he did, in the timing he did. So the fewest number of career hits, and word to Greg Harvey on Twitter for this, fewest career hits needed to reach 300 career MLB home runs all time. There's some big-time names near the top of this list. Mark McGwire took 978 hits, so less than 1,000 hits to reach 300 career home runs. That basically means about a third of your hits are bombs, right? And that's wild. Maybe like obviously a little under a third, but close enough to that it's noticeable. Aaron Judge, 988. So he's in the same kind of category as Mark McGwire. Harmon Killebrew, great Minnesota Twins slugger, 1,026. Adam Dunn, 1,027. So these are guys that have like great home run per at bat rates. Kyle Schwarber, the fewest all time, 949 at bats, 300 hits, 300 home runs. It's crazy. The fact that this guy has not even reached 1,000 hits in his major league career and he's got 300 home runs, just pure power, just a pure power hitter. And that's absolutely insane to say. Another great stat comes from Jason Stark, who I'm going to get a chance to talk to tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to hear about this on 97.5 The Fanatic tomorrow when Jason Stark joins us on the airwaves. And I'm going to go ahead and share back with you what he says to us there in case you don't get a chance to catch that interview on the TV or radio side. But Jason Stark tweets, Kyle Schwarber arrived in Philadelphia with 153 home runs in 7 years with the Cubs, Nationals, and Red Sox. 153 over 7 years. With number 300 being hit last night, he now has 147 in 3 years and a little over a month as a Philadelphia Philly. So even if you called it 4 years, that's basically the same production in 3 years less. But it's significantly less than that. It's almost 4 years less time and almost equal production. That Kyle Schwarber contract, we talk about Zach Wheeler all the time and say, well, Zach Wheeler, greatest free agency signing in Philadelphia Phillies history. Zach Wheeler, best return on investment you're ever going to get. And maybe that's true. Yeah. I mean, he's been incredible, and I'm very, very pro Wheeler. Like, he's been amazing. But the more Kyle Schwarber plays, the more you can make the case that he's even the better signing. And that's a great, great thing because you have both of those guys. And Kyle Schwarber's not locked down long-term like Wheels is, but both those guys are on this team. And both these guys are veteran players, and both of them want to win a World Series. Schwarber already has a ring from his time in Chicago. But when you look at Zach Wheeler, he wants one bad. And, these are the types of signings that Dave Dombrowski doesn't get enough credit for, that you look at and say, okay, well, everyone who's worried about him running it back or gets caught up on this Austin Hayes trade deadline thing from last year. Austin Hayes having a solid year, by the way, for the Cincinnati Reds. You don't account for stuff like this where you're bringing in these guys and they're having career stretches. It's incredible. Like Kyle Schwarber. He's only the 11th active player, by the way, with 300 career home runs. Kind of nuts that there's only 11 guys out there. He joins his teammate Bryce Harper as one of those guys. I believe they're the only two on the team with 300 career. Maybe Castellanos is close. I don't think Castellanos is close. But when you look at Kyle Schwarber and what he's been able to do for the Philadelphia Phillies, he has not just been a major power hitter that they expected. He has been significantly better than expected. He has cleared margins that nobody watching previous parts of his career would have ever thought possible. He has. So imagine Kyle Schwarber as a car. And he's going 65, 70 in the middle lane. And you're like, wow, that guy's going relatively fast. And then he shifts over to the left lane, which is the Philadelphia Phillies facet of his career, right? And then all of a sudden he's going, 95 miles an hour. And you're like, oh, wow, I thought he was zooming before. It's that much of a jump. Maybe it's even up to 100 miles an hour. It's that much of a jump in production from Kyle Schwarber. And I don't think he's on the Jose Alvarado stuff, folks. He's just turned into, and maybe it's the ballpark, right? Maybe he really likes hitting at Citizens Bank Park. Maybe it's the, hey, I'm on a team that's going to consistently compete and I'm in a good spot in the lineup. But he's moved in the lineup as well. It's not like he's been behind Bryce Harper and they're working around Bryce Harper to get to him and then they have to throw him strikes. That's recent. But remember, he batted leadoff just last year. He hit the most leadoff home runs in a single season in Major League history. Hey, what do you say about this guy? Is he just superhuman? Is he Aaron Judge? Is he Shohei Ohtani? Who is Kyle Schwarber? Is he really this good? And will he get paid like that as a DH this offseason? I mean, he's going to be such a hard player to evaluate as far as how you pay him and how long you pay him for, because you can't not have this guy on the team. But you can't make heads or tails of the numbers and what he's done since coming to Philadelphia. So the Phillies have a decision to make for sure with Kyle Schwarber, but it was great to see him hit that milestone. Congratulations to Kyle. We're all rooting for him to continue to knock off milestones and everything like that, continue to hit bombs, continue to help this team win. It was just another day in the life of Kyle Schwarber last night. And while it wasn't a huge, huge part of the victory, the game was already pretty in hand. It was pretty funny how Schwarber had a tough night, And there are people starting to say, like on social media, yeah, it doesn't really look like Schwarber has it tonight, or he's been kind of rough. He's not seeing it well. And then he hits on 466 feet. It's just like this dude at any time can flip a game on its head. And even though his home run was not the one that did so last night, it was Alec Bohm. He's an invaluable piece to this Phillies team. He cannot go anywhere. Keep working on an extension. If you will have those talks, sign him now. Sign him yesterday. Sign him this offseason, like past offseason. Sign him like 4 years ago. Do whatever you got to do. Build a time machine, Dave Dombrowski. Go back and sign Kyle Schwarber because this dude is an absolute monster. Now, can the Phillies continue to be absolute monsters against the Colorado Rockies? They've won 4 straight against that Rockies team. They have also won 4 straight games when it comes to their current winning record as a club after taking 3 from the Pirates. Can they make it 5 tonight? We're going to preview Game 2 of the 4-game series out there in Colorado against the Rockies as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's take a peek. Phil's Rockies, Game 2. Who do you think is favored in this one? I'll give you a second to make your guess. If you guess the Philadelphia Phillies, you're right. They are minus 285 on the money line. My God. They are major, major favorites. According to ESPN Analytics, they're 72.4% chance to win tonight against the Rockies. And part of that reason is because Jesus Luzardo's on the bump. Now, Sanchez was solid last night, but he wasn't great. I think Luzardo's had the better year, and Luzardo is also 4-0 with the 2 ERA, a 1.19 whip, and 54 innings pitched. He struck out 57. Meanwhile, he's facing Antonio Senzatela, I think it is. I think I pronounced that wrong last time. See, I'm learning these guys, the Colorado Rockies players that nobody knows. He's 1-7 on the year with a 6.39 ERA. Like everybody on this team stinks. I'm sorry. Like I don't mean it so much as like an individual affront to Senzatela, because maybe he'd be a good pitcher elsewhere. You know how that is when you get like work with a bad company and you don't really like your job and you don't really do as well. And then it compounds and then you're like, maybe I'm not good at this. And then it compounds more. And then all of a sudden you stink. Like you as an individual might not stink, but the position you're in is not doing you any favors, right? That's what it feels like when I look at every player on the Colorado Rockies. I don't necessarily feel bad for them because they're not great players, but I don't want to hammer the guys and be like, oh, these guys are bums. Phillies are better. I do want to show them respect. God, it's got to be tough to play for the Colorado Rockies or root for the Colorado Rockies right now. But no, a righty on the mound, so you're going to go back to your regular lineup. I'd imagine it'll be Stott leading off. I imagine it'll be Kepler in left. I imagine it'll be Marsh in center. And the Phillies should absolutely dominate the Colorado Rockies. I said yesterday that one of the things I want to see in this series is to build up that run differential. Well, they're already 6+ in the run differential for this series. I would love to see them go 6+ every game. That would be 6, 12, 18, a 24 spot in a single series against the Colorado Rockies, which would take the Phillies from like 20 whatever to like 40 whatever, which is kind of something I talked about on the TV and radio show yesterday. It was like, I want to see that number start with a 4 by the time this series is over. I added that because the whole they'll be in first place by the end of this series was too easy. They've already done it. It's too easy of a prediction to make. But the Phillies should be able to take advantage of the Rockies again. If there's anything outside of margin of victory that I want to see in tonight's game, I would love to see them get on starting pitchers. Like, get on Senzatela. He cannot go like 6 innings, 1 earned, and then you just crush the bullpen. Like, you could do that and you could win, and I'm not going to be all that mad, but I don't want to see that happen. Like, I don't want the Phillies to get in the habit of that. I want them to jump on this team early because there are going to be times where you have to battle against a starting pitcher. And, like, you saw it on Sunday against the Pirates. Skeens goes out there, and you're like, okay, we're not seeing him well. And then you just never get to the bullpen. He threw 8 innings in a loss. He didn't have to throw the bottom of the ninth, but honestly, I don't know who else they would have thrown. He was dominant. And the Phillies got lucky. They scraped one across. So, yeah, the starting pitching has been the Phillies' kryptonite at points this year. I want to see them get after Antonio Senzatela and, I don't know, hang 4 or 5 on him. Chase him by the 3rd or 4th inning. Make this a bit of a laugher again tonight. And maybe do it before the 8th inning like you did the night before. Another thing that I'll be watching for Bryce Harper starting to heat up. You saw what he did at the start of the year, batting down like the low 230s, and that didn't make you feel very good about how his year was going to go. Well, he is already back up to batting 263. He has been on a red hot stretch. I think he's batting over 300 this month. I think Trey Turner, by the way, is batting over like 350 this month. But Bryce Harper starting to get hot. The power hasn't quite come back, but he had a nice at bat last night against the Rockies where with 2 strikes on him, he got a ball low and away, well outside of the zone, well below the zone, and he just reaches out like he's got a boat paddle and pokes it into left field for an RBI single, scoring Trey Turner. That's the Bryce Harper, right? He can hit for power. He can hit for average. He can hit anything, anywhere. He's got plate coverage at an elite level. He's got a great eye. Like, he does everything well. Before we were talking about Bryce Harper batting 237, it's like, where in the world is Bryce Harper? Now, you remember what I told you? What the Phillies need to go from good to great? You need Bryce Harper to just be Bryce Harper. That's the only thing missing. You can add more, and there are different levels to greatness, but Bryce Harper hitting 263, it's not even as good as he can be, guys. He should be around 285, 290. That's where I would love to see Bryce Harper when things are said and done this season. And the way he's swinging it right now, it feels certainly attainable. So I'll have my eye on Bryce Harper and see. Now, Coors Field is kind of tricky, and it didn't do it last night. Even though the Phillies were quiet through the first couple of innings, first 7 innings, they were getting opportunities. They were getting runners on base. But Coors Field is kind of tricky because you know how people always say the home run derby messes up your swing. You're trying to lift the ball. You're trying to drive the ball with backspin, like way up there, and it messes up your swing because you're not swinging at 90 plus miles an hour. And next thing you know, you have a hitch in your swing for the rest of the season. Whether it's true or not, it's this old baseball wives' tale that the home run derby screws your swing up. Now, Coors Field is kind of similar to that theory, right? A field where you have to play your outfielders basically at the wall because the ball carries so well. Hitters know that. If you're in a bit of a power outage, you may be trying to elevate and celebrate. Basically, drop your back shoulder, lift the baseball, and try and crush that thing into the seats. And that could mess with a guy who's starting to settle in and find his swing a little bit like that. So I don't want to see Bryce Harper necessarily hunt the home run, but I do want to see him just stay. Like, that's what I'm not going to say. Bryce has got to go yard tonight. I'm not there. What I am looking for, though, is the continued just great approaches at the plate, good swings when you need to, single, double, single, double, single, double. He'll start to run into him a little bit. And when he gets that power stroke going, he's going to be a menace. But we're not quite there yet where we worry about the power, because the power is being supplied by other guys, mainly Kyle Schwarber. But you're getting other contributions as far as hitting the ball out of the yard. I mean, Edmundo Sosa goes yard last night. Alec Boehm goes yard last night. Kyle Schwarber goes yard last night. You were feeling pretty darn good about the way the offense looked late. Bryce Harper doesn't have to be the power guy right now. He just has to get himself more in a rhythm. And I don't want to see like the thought of Coors Field, and this is a place where I can easily hit a home run, take over, and then set him back a little bit when it comes to where his average is. So I'm watching Bryce Harper. I'm watching Jesus Luzardo for another strong start. I'm watching the Phillies getting after Senzatela, who is starting for the Rockies, a righty who is very, very gettable, who does nothing special on the mound, who you beat earlier this season, so you've already seen him once. The Phillies should absolutely win this game. In fact, there's no way the Phillies should lose this game. It should be nearly physically impossible. I asked Ricky Batalico, who's on the afternoon show with me over at 97.5 The Fanatic. I asked him what legitimately would have to happen for the Phillies to lose a game to this Rockies team. And he was like, yeah, they'd have to run into a hot pitcher. They'd have to make a lot of errors. They'd have to, I don't know, a meteor would have to hit their dugout. Like, essentially, and the third one I added in there. But he was like, there'd have to be a lot of errors and a lot of mistakes, and you'd have to run into a hot pitcher, and you'd have to give up some bombs. It's not going to happen, guys. Phils are winning tonight. Phils are going up 2-0 in the series. Not that it's like a playoff series or anything, but they're going to win the first 2 games of the series, and tomorrow we're going to be talking about more special moments for the Fighting Phils, who are going to remain in first place in the National League. Like, it's as simple as that. Now you got to just maintain. And, hey, the more you can pace out and build that lead, the better you can feel about maintaining it later on in the season, if and when a slump comes. But we're not worried about that right now. We're worried about the Phillies playing outstanding baseball. They've been on a hot stretch for a while. The standings are starting to show dividends, and we'll see if they do again tonight. Phils will win. We'll talk about it on tomorrow's episode, but that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. Appreciate that very much, and I'll talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.